button is clicked, and make sure that your microphone stays off until coffee hour. And I'm going to invite you to take a breath now and rise in body or spirit and voice as you're willing and able, and join us in our opening hymn. The words will be on your screen as they go. We're just getting that queued up. No worries at all. It will be number 128, For All That Is Our Life.
For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own design. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks for all that is our life. For sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks for all that is our life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build a common
You get a quick rub
good
with that, huh?
and make our own design.
Welcome. I'm Meg Reardon, and I'm glad to be here with you. On behalf of the entire congregation, thank you for being here, whether on Zoom or via YouTube. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome. Please send an email to office@firstuu-indianapa.org to join our newsletter mailing list. I invite you, if you have the bandwidth, to turn your camera on here in our Zoom room. For many of us, seeing one another's faces is an important part of how we feel connected on Sundays. On Zoom, you'll also see the speech bubble in the middle of your toolbar just below the video screen. It's labeled Chat, and you can use that feature for greetings and for joys and concerns during the service. The First Unitarian Universalist Church of Indiana, PA is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association. We are self-governing congregations united in a web of mutuality that creates our denomination. We have no creed or doctrine, teaching that all individuals have the right and the responsibility to discern and follow their own spiritual paths. We come together to support and assist each other on our journeys and to build our beloved community together. I invite you to stay after the service to greet one another and rejoice in our mutual presence. We will open up the microphones on Zoom for coffee hour, and folks here in person, which I don't think there's any, you will be welcome to greet those joining us electronically at that time as well. There are a few special announcements today. I invite you to Dance Church coming up this Wednesday evening. Dancers will remain masked and distanced, joining together in shared expression through movement. Lenny's playlist for this month starts the new year off with a collection of music that will evoke the solemn, sacred, spiritual, sensual, self-reflective, self-expressive, and celebratory aspects of our lives. Come and experience movement as a spiritual practice. Our drop-in Soul Matters group is this Tuesday. Please let Holly know if you would like a packet of readings and suggested spiritual practices in anticipation of this online and in-person group. Due to our move to online-only worship, we have pushed back our pathway to membership classes. Reverend Elizabeth will be in touch to schedule a new date for these. And now I invite you to take a gentle breath and settle yourself into a spirit of worship.
The sun has risen. Today, we have enough water to drink, enough food to eat, and people who make the choice to be here together. And for this, we give thanks. An abundance of ordinary blessings, these things which form the fabric of our lives. They are precious, not because they are scarce, but because they come again and again to remind us of how the ordinary becomes sanctified by our noticing, by our choosing, how every day dawns with the potential to be a miracle if we would only take a moment to notice. Today we are here together, making the choice to let the ordinary become the sacred by sharing it with one another. In this spirit, noticing all that is both precious and everyday, may we begin our worship. May we honor this sacred time.
And now let us light our chalice flame. On Zoom, you may type "the flame is lit" and say where you are joining us from in the chat bar. Please join me in saying the chalice lighting words. Birth is a miracle of love and courage, bringing light into the world. Death is a loss of light, but no less an act of courage, for we are born from and return to mystery. Now, please lift your voices and spirits and sing along with our hymn number 86, Blessed Spirit of My Life. Words will be posted in the chat bar to accompany the music.
Blessed Spirit of my life, give me strength to stress and strive. Help me live with dignity, let me know serenity. Fill me with your fill my
Our time for all ages today is a book called Death, Duck, and the Tulip by Worth Erlbrook. I invite you to listen deeply to this reading and think about what you believe happens after the ending of the book.
For a while now, Duck had had a feeling. Who are you? What are you up to, creeping along behind me? Good, said Death. You finally noticed me. I am Death. Duck was scared stiff, and who could blame her? You've come to fetch me? Oh, I've been close by all your life, just in case. In case of what? Asked Duck. In case something happens to you. A nasty cold, an accident. You never know. Are you going to make something happen? Life takes care of that. The coughs and colds and all the other things that happen to you ducks. Fox, for example. Duck tried not to think about that. Gave her the goosebumps. Duck gave her a friendly smile. Actually, he was nice, if you forgot for a moment who he was. Really quite nice. Shall we go down to the pond? She asked. Death had been dreading that. Before long, Death decided that he had his limits. Forgive me, he said. I must really get away from this damp. Are you cold? Duck asked. Shall I warm you up a little? Nobody had ever offered to do that to Death. Duck woke first, very early in the morning. I'm not dead, she thought to herself. She poked Death in the ribs. I'm not dead, she quacked, utterly delighted. I'm pleased for you, Death said, stretching. And if I had died? Then I wouldn't have been able to sleep in, Death yawned. That wasn't a very nice thing to say. For a while, she refused to speak, but soon she was chattering again. Some ducks say you become an angel and sit on a cloud, looking over the earth. Quite possibly. Death rose to his feet. You have the wings already. Some ducks say that deep in the earth, there's a place where you'll be roasted if you haven't been good. You ducks come up with some amazing stories, but who knows? So you don't know either, Duck snapped. Death just looked at her. What shall we do today? Death asked. Well, let's not go back to the pond. Let's do something really exciting. Death was relieved. Shall we climb a tree? He teased. They could see the pond far below. There it lay, so still, so lonely. That's what it will be like when I'm dead, Duck thought. The pond alone, without me. Death could sometimes read minds. When you're dead, the pond will be gone too, at least for you. Are you sure? Duck was astonished. As sure can be, Death said. Well, that's a comfort. I won't have to mourn over it when you're dead. Death finished the sentence. He wasn't coy about the subject. Well, let's climb down, Duck pleaded after a bit. You can start having strange thoughts in trees. Summer was ending, and they went less and less often to the pond. They sat together in the grass, sang little. When a cool wind ruffled her feathers, Duck felt its chill for the first time. I'm cold, she said one evening. Will you warm me a little? Snowflakes drifted down. Something had happened. Duck looked at the duck. She stopped breathing. She lay quite still. Death stroked a few rumpled feathers back into place. Then he carried her to the great river. He laid her gently on the water and nudged her along her way. For a long time he watched her. When she was lost to sight, he was almost a little moved. But that's life, thought Death. The end.
Thank you.
We now invite you to pass a sign of peace with one another online by typing a short blessing for those present in our chat. You might say, peace be with you, namaste, shalom, blessed morning, salam alaikum, bright blessings, blessed be. Thank you for sharing your blessings with one another.
Yeah.
Eleanor, come on in. Hi, Eleanor. I'm Michael. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for asking. Oh, one question. Where am I? Who are you and what's going on?
Right. So you, Eleanor Shellstrop, are dead. Your life on Earth has ended, and you are now in the next phase of your existence in the universe.
Cool. Cool. I have some questions.
Don't you mind?
That phrase that Eleanor speaks, I have some questions. Might be the reason you came today to church. Heck, it might be the reason a whole lot of you started coming to this congregation or your congregation. One of the things that you value most about Unitarian Universalism. We don't always have all the answers. We have a lot of really good questions. This is a denomination that doesn't believe that easy answers are necessarily the right ones. We believe we have some good ideas, good values, a lot of support for asking great questions and staying with one another in conversation, even when our answers are very different. Some of that guidance for how to be with one another is found in our 7 principles. So let us speak together the words of our 7 principles, which can be found on your screen. We covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience, and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, and respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part.
Our centering words today come from Immortality by Leslie Takahashi. In the daily weave of our lives, those who have died are still strong guiding threads. Theirs is the golden glimmer of perhaps the brilliant red or the melancholy blue. Still, they are part of the whole cloth of our lives. They are the ancestors, the goers before. Through this, we know immortality. In the hour-to-hour rush of our daily tasks, they travel with us through something they taught us, which is now ours to do, through something they loved, which is now ours to carry out, through something we shared, which is now ours alone, and yet not. Through this, we know immortality. In the minute-to-minute grasp of where we are, we remember the joys our departed gave us, which opened us up to hope, the sorrows we knew together, which taught us strength, the life shared, which is now ours to steward. Through this, we know immortality. In the second-to-second pulse of life, we sense the spirit of those we have loved and lost. This presence is too shy for naming, too amorphous for full knowing, and yet as real as the days we shared. Through this, we know immortality. They are more than remembered, they are memory itself. For what we love lives on in the way our beloved dead accompany us through our life. Their words and wisdom our guide, their humor our relief, their restless concern for the world our charge. Through this, we know immortality. During our centering music, if you have joys or sorrows you would like spoken aloud, please write them in the chat to be woven into our shared pastoral prayer.
My later sun is sinking fast. My race is nearly run. My strongest trials are past. My triumph has begun. Oh, come, angel band, come and around me stand. Oh, bear me away on your snow-white wings to my immortal home. Oh, bear me away on your snow-white wings to my immortal home. Oh, there my longing heart to him who bled and died for me. Whose blood now cleanses from all sin and gives me victory. Oh, come, angel band, come and around me stand. Oh, bear me away on your snow-white wings to my immortal home. Oh, bear me away on your snow-white wings to my immortal home.
Hearts and minds together in a spirit of prayer. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, we gather to share in community the milestones of our living. Today, we hold room for deep grief. Nana's mother, Dot Waller, passed away just yesterday. We offer all of our comfort that we can give and honor this grief. On a lighter note, we also honor Zuzu's sorrow that tomorrow is Monday and there will be school. Yet the joy, the mixed blessing, that she has figured out a hypothesis for her science fair experiment. May this bring comfort. Kyle, who is also going by Sahara, is asking for support and love, navigating many transitions in life, professionally and personally. May we send blessings. And for Judith, who is feeling stiff and sore after a bit of a fall, we offer white light of healing. We are with Pauline in her joy of having family for the holidays, and send loving thoughts for the safe return of her brother to his home in Wisconsin and her daughter-in-law from Bogota to her home in Arizona. We offer as well our healing wishes to Charlotte, who is recovering in St. Andrews and doing physical therapy, getting stronger every day. We are so grateful for all who are healing, all who are well, all who are held in community. So for the blessings of our lives, may we be grateful for the beauty of the earth, these changing seasons which bring beautiful snow and rain, ice and sleet, and the promise that spring will come again. May we give thanks. In times of fragile hearts and tender sorrows, may we find comfort and strength. May our hearts be healed, and may we be filled with peace. Amen, and blessed be.
At the First UU Church of Indiana, we share the plate by giving a portion of every week's donations to an organization outside of the church. This is part of our congregation's mission to promote compassionate and responsible thought and action in the world by giving back to the community around us every week. So when you give this morning, know that you are making an impact not only for this congregation, but also in the wider community through our shared giving. It is January and we are beginning a new cycle for Share the Plate, so please look in your newsletter and fill out the form for nominations. We ask for new nominations each year because the process of filling out the form gives us information about new leadership and projects in the community, which helps our whole congregation to understand what our donations are supporting. Give Reverend Elizabeth a call if you need help to get a group on the list. Our congregation is often filled with those who have a bit extra, and we are so glad that you take seriously the call of our shared faith to give beyond our walls, to foster equity and compassion in human relations, and to build a better world. Please give generously as you are able to the work of this church as we share in singing our offertory hymn.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live.
So here we are. There's a thing that humans seem to want: a good story. A story that begins with "in the beginning," once upon a time, and ends, "and they all lived happily ever after." The reality is that we are doomed to always be born in the middle of a much larger story. We never get to find the ultimate ending to much of anything. And so we make up stories which are satisfying for our imaginations, ones that tell us the morality tales. All this striving shall lead to satisfaction. If you do good, good will come to you. A sense of being done, a sense of being complete. That there is even a real ending to any story might be the greatest myth. It's the one that makes stories and myths satisfying. So the Torah begins with Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Or, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Perhaps you believe that. Perhaps you believe in science, which gave us the Big Bang. Or, as Terry Pratchett frames it, in the beginning, there was nothing, which exploded. Perhaps you know of children's stories. Once there was a velveteen rabbit. Once upon a time, a princess lived in a castle. Long, long ago, in a galaxy far, far away. Whatever it is, whatever has come into existence in stories thus far, great and small, it draws you in. We want to know what happens next and what happens after that. And after that, until the story is complete. And then we want to know what happens next. Is there a sequel? How does it go now that we are invested? This moment of happily ever after is what we're talking about today. What happens after death, what happens at the end of all endings, which is to say, we want to know what's the ultimate purpose for which we live. I remember as a child, my own minister had an array of comics across her office door. I'd read them as a child sometimes while I waited for a parent to come out of a committee meeting. Or perhaps because I had a question, but I was a little too shy to just knock and ask. She seemed very busy to me, this minister, doing all kinds of important church work. Instead, I would loiter outside in hopes that she just might need a drink of water or something. She might come out and happen to see me so that I could ask. So I read those comics over and over while I loitered. One that I recall best had a frazzled-looking older man, beardy and prophetic, sketched in black and white, and wearing a sandwich board. And on his board was written, "The end is not nigh. You must learn to cope." Here it is, the meaning of life, the ending, the great and ultimate truth of the universe's final purpose. I'm sorry to disappoint you after all the buildup, but you didn't come to a Unitarian Universalist church expecting definitive answers, did you? Well, the true answer is we don't get to know. We're pretty sure that we don't know. Whatever I say will not change the fact that neither you nor I will ever get to know what death is like until we die. We're both bound by our common state of living, by a timeline that moves in just one direction. We will never know what happens beyond the moment of death until we find out. And we can never come back and post spoilers for anyone else. We cannot tell on the universe. We cannot cross and recross that barrier of the final page with the end written clearly upon it. Like the barrier of light speed, which keeps us from finding out what happened before the Big Bang, or what lies beyond the edge of an expanding universe, we must wonder without confirmation by any method yet devised. But we wouldn't be human if we didn't wonder and want to know. Not just what or how. More importantly, what does it all mean? If there's a final reward, how do we get it? If the afterlife holds punishment, how might we avoid it? If we go into nothingness forever, then what does our life matter? This is one of the things that many Christian thinkers come back to. The idea being, as William Lane Craig, a Christian theologian, wrote, if there is no God, then man and the universe are doomed. Like prisoners condemned to death, we await our unavoidable execution. There is no God, and there is no immortality. And what is the consequence of this? It means that life itself is absurd. It means that the life we have is without ultimate significance, value, or purpose. Perhaps, but I think not. You see, I've read too many children's books to believe that there is no purpose, no meaning in absurdity, no inherent worth. In one of my beloved children's books, one that we give to children here upon their dedication, The Velveteen Rabbit, there is a little bunny, a stuffed one. And through the transforming power of immense love, that stuffed rabbit becomes real, real with a capital R, transformed, and perhaps goes off to bunny heaven, rewarded for his life's work of loving care. But I'm not sure it's that simple. If we believe that the afterlife is the main purpose for this lifetime's existence, then might that mean that our lives are merely puttering about and rearranging the decor of the waiting room while we hope for death? Hopefully not. Not to be called upon when we're at a really good point in the story we brought along to enjoy during the wait. I don't think it's like that. I don't think the point is the future. The now. Ironically, in some respects, science and the progress of knowledge has been somewhat of a creator of doubt more than anything. Because as scientific thought has clarified a great many things about how the world we live in works, it has utterly failed to tell us what it all means and why it matters. And that's not because science is a failure. It's because that's not what science is for. For this, we still turn to religious spaces, to the moral philosophers and the theologians of our time, the creators of media and fiction and popular stories. Though our starting points are more couched in the certainty of our lack of knowledge these days than any comforting and certain story of a sure and certain endpoint to the world and all things. In years of study of Hebrew and Christian texts, reading wisdom from the world's religions, conversing with interfaith collegial groups, reading up on string theory, thinking about atomic weapons, pondering that comic on my minister's doorframe, watching TV shows like The Good Place, and rereading children's books like Death, Duck, and the Tulip, or The Velveteen Rabbit, which makes me cry every single time. What I find is this: it matters that we love, not because it makes us worthy of the next life, but because it makes us worthy of this one and of each other as well. To love one another, to build ties between ourselves, to consent to become entangled with the threads of one another's lives. Since the first molecules joined, the first strings of matter began to build at the moment of the Big Bang, becoming entwined and entangled has been the builder of the story of all creation. The meaning isn't in the ending. We don't read a story just as a place marker to get to a satisfying end credit page. We read, we watch, we experience, because the story itself matters. The reason Eleanor Shellstrop from The Good Place has a compelling story is not because her death is the satisfying ending, but because it is for her and for us the beginning of a whole new story about love, connection, transformation coming from relationship, continuing onward and giving a new significance. I cry, as I said, when I read the story of the Velveteen Rabbit, because the Velveteen Rabbit does not give faithful love as a transaction in order to become real or saved. It's because he is so loved in return, so inherently satisfied to be a part of that relationship that it makes him truly alive. It is that aliveness in our hearts that we are looking for, that we find, and it transforms us. And the rabbit and I grieve the passing of that relationship and note that we too wish that we could still see all of those who have left our lives. Grief is what we feel that tells us there was love, that there was relationship, and that it mattered. That memory and its transforming power lives on through our own lives, even when someone has passed. And through this, we know immortality. What the myth builders and the storytellers of all the eons have always known is it's not so much that we want happily ever after. We want to know that at the end, there's another good story waiting to be told. So let me tell you this day, what Unitarian Universalists believe is that yes, the story matters. Your life awaits nothing. It is the purpose of your existence to be you, to be loved, to love and care for the miracle of all creation in everything around you. And through all of that, to become so utterly entwined in the fabric of existence that death cannot cut your legacy, your spirit out of the tapestry that weaves itself onward into an unknown future. We believe. We believe in life. We say yes to love. We are blessed by one another. And so we become a people who do not close this book of life, knowing that there is a sweet, sure, easy salvation in which we definitely live happily ever after. Instead, we believe that whatever happens after we close our eyes that final time, it will spark an endless cascade of sequels. And we want to build a whole library of works in which the ending is again and again a cascade of beginnings for ever more wondrous stories. Let our legacy be that we have sparked many a plot twist across the universe. May it be so, and may you live happily ever after, or at least until something interesting happens. Blessed be.
Our Closing words today come from Earthseed, Volume 43, To Benefit Your World by Octavia Butler. To shape God with wisdom and forethought, to benefit your world, your people, your life. Consider consequences, minimize harms, ask questions, seek answers, learn, teach. And now, please sing along with our closing hymn, number 354, We Laugh, We Cry. Words will be on the screen or in your gray hymnal during the music.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. Yes, we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give. We have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer. We seek an honest answer to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and healthy peace of mind. And then we come together here to talk of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. Yes, we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that learning is an answer. Yes, we believe in life and in the strength of love. Yes, we have found a need to be together. And in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see, eager to question truly is our answer. We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need.
I invite you to join me in saying together our words to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish our chalice flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I'm still seeing Meg. And so, in these final moments together, let us take this time to breathe and savor this moment for its own sake, for itself. And when you go forth today, may you continue to hold that feeling, to savor your own life for its own sake. Blessed be. And amen.